Welcome to Meet the Candidates 2020, a voter education program brought to you by the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Our hope is that these candidate interviews and profiles will help you, the voter, understand your choices when it comes to casting your ballot in the 2020 elections. While we can all agree that an informed candidate is important, we believe informed voters make all the difference. So we ask you to arm yourself with the information necessary to make an educated choice and to make casting your vote a priority, regardless of how you do it this year, mail-in or in person. Please visit shakopee.org to find out all of the information you'll need to know about the upcoming election, including polling places and times, and a link to the Secretary of State website for mail-in voting options. Hi, and welcome to Meet the Candidates 2020, a voter education program brought to you by the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce. My name is Angie Whitcomb, and this morning I am joined by Mike Luce, who is seeking election to the Shakopee City Council. Mike, thanks so much for joining us today. Why don't you tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself?
First of all, thank you for inviting me and having this. It's a great opportunity for the citizens to get to know the candidates better. I'm a lifelong resident of Shakopee. I hate to tell you, but I've been here over 64 years. I have 2 grown children that live in town. I have 6 grandchildren, 2 of which have just graduated last year. One is an accelerated class. She graduated a year early. And currently, my oldest grandson is working out of state and driving his parents nuts because they have lost control. And not that he's doing anything wrong, but for the first time, he's away from home. So they're very concerned.
Sure.
And I remember those days well. So we all have to go through it. And it's not a real pleasure, but
No.
You'll get over it.
Yep.
So I guess people know a little bit about me. I grew up downtown. I've lived in different areas in Shakopee, and not totally familiar with a lot of the new areas because Shakopee's growing very quickly. But I guess we need to get into the rest of the questions.
Yeah, well, let's move right in. Mike, why are you running for City Council again?
Well, 7 years ago, I was elected to the Shakopee City Council, and I spent 5 years on the council. There were ups and downs. I enjoyed most of it. While I was on the council, I was able to work on the inclusive playground. I guess I spearheaded the fundraising on it, and it became a real passion with me. It's a great feature that Shakopee, we have an award-winning, state-of-the-art playground that's accessible to everyone. If you have special needs or not, children with special needs, I've had parents tell me they've come from 100 miles away just to bring their children to this playground. It is the only thing in the area. And last year during Thanksgiving, I decided to put a fundraiser together, and we donated 130 turkeys to CAP agency. Now, this doesn't sound like why I'm running, but I'll get to that. This past year, when COVID hit, I decided to put another fundraiser together, and we delivered 5,400 boxes of cereal to CAP again to help feed the children that weren't getting their breakfast in school anymore. And I have also been working on setting up an endowment for the engineering class at the high school. It pairs engineering students with special needs students, and the reason for it is the engineering students are supposed to get to know the special needs student and their needs, and then come up with ideas for things that they could use in their average day to help them. And I actually donated $500 last fall to the class so that it would help them be able to build prototypes for the students. The engineering students generally can only get a drawing or a paper mock-up. Well, this would give them more of a chance to see their work in action. And I then fundraised $1,000 extra for it, and I'm trying to put together an endowment for that class, which got put on hold with COVID. And the reason I state all of that, because I found that with the title of council member and even former council member, it opens a lot of doors for you. and it makes the fundraising easier. And I don't know, I found that I have a passion for helping people, and I believe I can be of assistance to all the citizens of Shakopee being on the council. I am able to think out of the box and come up with different ideas, and I hope to be able to use those abilities down the road here.
Okay. What would you change about how the city government, the Shakopee city government works?
Currently? Mm-hmm. Well, I have some concerns on the direction they're going. One of the concerns was the old KC Hall building and what they're going to put there. A temporary housing for people that need it. That's a good idea. But to add a homeless shelter in that area leaves me a lot of questions. We have 2 senior developments within close walking distance, one literally across the street. And I think that puts an undue burden on our seniors to have homeless people. And I have a compassion for homeless people. I understand that, they have, some of them have had no choice but to become homeless. Others, it is a lifestyle choice, and those people tend to want to be that way, and there's nothing we're going to be able to do about them. There's people in downtown Minneapolis that, they prefer to live on the street than to even go to shelters. That one really concerned me. I think there could have been a whole lot more questions asked and possibly different things worked out for that. Homeless is a problem, but is that the right place for it? One of the questions I have with the current council is the administrator's actions towards Spuck. He has a lot to deal with within his own plate, if you call it that, in the city. Why is he looking in other entities to cause problems? I don't believe that's necessary. I think it's beyond his reach, and I think council should be reining him in and telling him to keep his nose in city business and not in, another entity's business. Give you an example. There was an electrical engineer that was put on Spuck a number of years ago. That makes sense. An electrical engineer on a utility company. That's a great idea. Well, they removed him, and they put on a former council member as what I see as payback in order for all the votes that person gave the mayor when that person was on the council. Recently, they passed over a forensic auditor for someone who was outspoken to take Spuck back into the city, and that doesn't make any sense. A forensic auditor, that part of what they've been screaming about, that the bookkeeping's not done right. Well, this guy could have done all kinds of assistance for them and free, and they didn't want to take it. And then they vote to put on a current council member who has no idea of, in my mind, what's going on at Spuck, and I believe it's just there for a convenient vote to vote the way the mayor and the administrator want them to vote. I do know that the administrator headhunted a number of the people that are on the commission. I've talked to people that are on there and said that he approached them, and I've talked to other people that were approached and they declined to be part of it. So the whole commission has been stacked, other than the 2 people that are opposing the breakup. And I really admire those 2 people for standing strong in what they're doing. The rest of them, I believe, people might think this a bad way to put it, but they look like a bunch of bobbleheads up there. They're just, any question they're asked, they just shake their head yes, and it goes through. So I think there's a number of things, and that's just a couple, and I'm sure we need to move on because this isn't an all-day affair. So.
Well, moving on, how do you think the city should assist businesses that are struggling due to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I did find out recently that the city did administer CARE grants, and I put in several calls to city staff that have not been returned to date to find out how much money was involved and different things on that, what possible businesses got it. Now, I know the city does also have facade grants that we use to help local businesses, and every action needs to be looked at, and we need to retain as many of these businesses. Not all these businesses are going to survive. This COVID epidemic is going to weed out a lot of businesses that maybe were not that solid, but hopefully by next year we can move forward, and we'll pick up the pieces the best we can, and the city government needs to do what they can, short of taking tax dollars and citizens' tax dollars and giving them to businesses. I don't believe they have the legal ability to do that, and shouldn't, even if they do.
Okay. As the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce, we are unapologetically pro-Shakopee, unapologetically pro-business, and we want to know how is your agenda pro-business, and how does that differ from your opponents?
Well, as far as my opponents, I'm not real sure on what their positions are, but I can speak to mine. I believe it's considerably cheaper to retain business than it is to try and recruit new businesses. In order to do that, I believe we need some out-of-the-box ideas. I have provided those in my previous council engagement. When the apartment building that came up that's on 2nd and Holmes, the old City Hall site, we started talking about bonding and tax increment financing and different things, and I did a bunch of research and I checked with the state on different things, and I found out that the city has a sewer fund that is supposed to go towards reconstruction of the city sewers when needed, and it's quite a vast amount of money. And I did find out through the state that the city could borrow that money out and use it instead of bonding. And in actuality, we did do that on that building, and the city actually gets a 50% higher return on their dollars right now on that money than was being received from the investment company that the city uses. So I've also put forward that should have been used on the Canterbury Commons development, and at the time it was close to my timing out on the council, so I wasn't able to push that any further. I have had 2 brokerage firms that I deal with look into it to see where the bonds went for Canterbury Commons, and both of them have told me that they did not hit the public. So my only thought is that the city is doing that same financing plan, and they financed it through the city, which the financing plan does not cause the city any more liability than bonding. When the city bonds a project, the full faith and credit of the city is involved in the bond. So if the city uses the city's money or they do a bond, the city's exposure or the taxpayer's exposure is basically the same. The only difference is there is no difference, or there's no extended costs in printing the bonds and selling the bonds. When the bonds go out to a brokerage firm, they get a percentage of the money that the bonds bring in. And it also costs legal fees, which they're probably greater on the bonding than it would be for the city to take it right out of city funds. But I'm sure there's some legal ramifications in that also. But I believe that was quite an out-of-the-box find to find out that the city could make 50% more on their investments and not have any extended exposure. So.
Okay. Last question, Mike. What role should the city have in attracting new businesses to Shakopee or helping current businesses expand?
Well, as I said before, I think retaining business is a whole lot cheaper than attracting business. Every business that comes to town comes with their hands out for the most part. They want something. Some want little things which are pretty easy to deal with. Somewhat extravagant things from the city, which, it includes taxpayer dollars, and I don't agree with most of that. There are a few things that, like the Canterbury Commons site, I finally voted to go forward with that, because to have 130 acres in the middle of town sitting there basically drawing no taxes, and we can probably quadruple or quintuple the taxes brought in by that property when it's completely developed, was pretty much a no-brainer. It took a while to run the numbers and run it past people, but in the end, it's going to work out. It probably isn't going to look that way for a while, but people just need to hang in there. As far as attracting new business, the city received sewer access credits, they're called SAC credits, from RAR when they went offline. RAR Malting built their own sewage treatment plant, which took them off of the Blue Lake plant that Met Council operates. Excuse me. City staff went to bat with Met Council and received the credits that RAR had paid for, because they don't return the money. They actually normally just keep it. But in this case, they gave them back to the city in the form of credits. And the city uses those to entice businesses to come into town. But the council decided that these were a giveaway or a grant. I had originally thought that we should do a revolving set of credits, where for 5 years, first 5 years the company's in business, we give them the credits, and then after that we start expecting them back over 5 years. So once they're established, they have the ability to pay the credits back. And there's going to be businesses that fail, and that's part of the game of attracting businesses. So somewhere along the line we would have lost credits. They do stay with the building, but you never know what's going to move into the building next. And we have found out through some of the record keeping of Met Council that, or lack of record keeping, we've had some businesses that probably date back to the 70s, 80s, that they didn't have record of sewer connections or proper amount of sewer connections, and city staff members had to go to bat with Met Council and fight for those credits to be applied to the new business. So, staff does work to bring in business, and I applaud that. I think that, there's ideas out there. I think people just need to, think out of the box, and we will get there. I've shown that I can do that, and I hope to do that in the future.
Great. With our last 30 seconds, will you take a look at the camera and tell the voters at home why you would like them to vote for you on November 3rd or sooner?
I would like the citizens of Shakopee to vote for me because I have a proven track record of thinking out of the box, coming up with the best ideas and promoting them. I also ask the hard questions. I'm not afraid to ask questions, and I do have the thickest skin of anybody that's ever been on the council, because I have been censured twice for no reason other than I ask the hard questions. So come today if you want, or November 3rd when we're all supposed to go to the polls and cast our ballots. I hope you'll vote for me. I will work hard for you, and I've always worked hard for you. I'm positive and upbeat about the city council. I just think that the guidance needs to be changed slightly. So the other thing is I answer all calls, emails, and text as quick as I can. So if you have any questions or phone, need to call me, feel free. Thank you for your time, and thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. And thanks for watching this episode of Meet the Candidates 2020. Thank you for watching Meet the Candidates 2020, a voter education program brought to you by the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Please visit our website at shakopee.org for all of the information you'll need to know leading up to the November 3rd election.